welfare to get skills and to get training so that they can get jobs. It would reduce welfare dependency, and then as a nation, help us to become a more trained and educated nation. The Delaware Workforce Investment Board is under the authority, as Brother Dwight said, of the governor. We have right now currently about 45 members, and these are very diverse members. 50% of our board has to be from the private business sector because they offer the expertise and the knowledge that is necessary to let us know what types of jobs are out there, what types of training and education are needed in the state of Delaware. We have cabinet secretaries on our board, the Secretary of Education, Housing, Health and Social Services, and those individuals sit on our board because they're always in the presence of the governor, and they have a good idea of where he's trying to go and what his vision is for the state. We also have presidents of colleges and universities. They sit on that board again. They bring their expertise to help us to know as they connect with business what types of training and education we need to have available for the citizens of Delaware. We receive funding. Our funding is very prescribed, and by that I mean it has to do certain things, like to help adults be able to obtain the skills that they need for education and training and to go to work. We don't want to just train for the sake of giving people certificates and degrees, but these types of training programs have to lead to jobs. We, again, provide funding for adults. For dislocated workers, that would be those individuals whose work has gone away. When you look at Delaware, you look at the auto industry and how it was affected, those jobs went away. Those individuals were able to access funds for training so that they could maybe change their career or to get more skills so that they can get back into the workforce. And again, we have funds for youth. The Workforce Investment Act covers youth funding and helping youth to get into programs where they can get their GED, get some sort of training and skills so that they're able to go to work. Our board functions through committee. We actually function through committee. We have an executive committee, which for most boards is your governing committee, which works, that particular committee works very hard to establish policies and to make sure we eliminate barriers as we're trying to get these funds out to the public. There are many barriers that our clients come in with, and we're trying to eliminate those barriers so that we can get the funding out on the street to people. We look at performance measures. We reach out into the public area with some community services, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Again, we have a youth council. Our youth council is connected with other agencies in the state to make sure funds are directed for youth and that youth are well served, that we have a shared youth vision in the state of Delaware, that we're not off just doing one thing and not connecting with the other types of services that our youth need in the state. And then we, of course, have a finance committee that oversees the funding. We have just 4 staff in my office. We're not a very big staff, me and my deputy, and I have an executive assistant. And then we have another individual, she's a contract specialist, and she makes sure that the providers and the training providers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I want to talk a little bit about training providers. The Workforce Investment Board operates by selecting training providers in the state of Delaware who are able to train the individuals who are accessing training services. We have what is called a list of certified training providers. If you go to, I'm going to give you this website, my deputy knows it better than me. It's joblink.delaware.gov, joblink.delaware.gov, am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if you go to that website, you can click on training providers, and you'll be able to see a long list of training providers. We've got about 83 training providers on this list with over 360 different types of training programs. These could be short-term training programs if you're trying to get to work right away, or if you want to pursue getting an associate's degree. We have our universities and our community college, which is Del Tech, on that list. We have now begun to service through our bigger schools like the Wilmington University and the University of Delaware. And I say that because when the Workforce Investment Act first started, we were serving people who were considered the hardest to serve. And that would be people who, really didn't have any skills at all and wanted to get into very short-term trainings so that they can go to work. Well, as the board progressed over the years, we found out that the hardest to serve aren't just people who are looking for jobs right away. Now with the larger companies and going out of business, we have people who have limited education or who've worked for years and years and maybe want to pursue an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. So we kind of had to broaden our list and be really flexible in the way we service our clients. I want to have Bill talk about how we serve out these dollars and how we get them out to the public. It's through what we call the One-Stop Career Center. Each Department of Labor location has what we call a One-Stop Career Center. And that's where our clients come in through the front door and they're able to access services. They are first registered. They get to talk to somebody about, whether or not I'm here just for employment services, or whether I do want to talk to somebody about a career, or whether I want to talk about, how to get into a training program. And that is done through the One-Stop Career Center. So when people call us at the Delaware Workforce Investment Board and they want to know how to access the services, we tell them to go to your Department of Labor one-stop location. There's one here right down the street in Wilmington, right in the Department of Labor. We're co-housed, we're upstairs in that building because we have oversight of these funds and how they're being served out. It's a lot easier to have oversight when you're in the same building and you're able to see how services are being directed out. There's one in Pencader off of 896 in Newark. There's one Department of Labor location in Dover and then one in Georgetown. So depending upon where you live, you would go there and you would be able to talk to someone. The Workforce Investment Board, and I'll go back to talking about the board. I'm sorry, my mind just starts to connect, so I don't have any real order to how I'm doing this. So you just kind of hang with me if you can. The Workforce Investment Board, these individuals work really hard and they're very, very concerned about how these federal dollars that come into the state of Delaware are given out. We want to make sure that the citizens of Delaware, that it is a system that works fairly and that you are able to access these services. Every state has a Workforce Investment Board, every state in the United States. Some states are very, very big, but they have one state board, and then they may have a lot of local boards for the different counties or the different districts for which they have to oversee workforce activities. In Delaware, we have one board. We are able to look at our state locally as well as from a little bit of a higher level and see what the state needs are. When I say that, if you look at Delaware as a local area, there may be different types of jobs that are available if you're looking at the neighborhood you live in, the area code that you live in, as opposed to we look at it from a state level. What industries in Delaware are hiring or what types of jobs are available when we look from an industry perspective. For instance, in the state of Delaware, healthcare is an industry that does really, really well. Another industry that does well is government, like local government. Our area where the Workforce Investment Board and the Department of Labor has really concentrated on is that dislocated worker area. For instance, when we talk about manufacturing, when we talk about auto workers and trying to make sure we really hone in on the types of skills that are needed for those types of jobs. So, we do the board strategic planning thing. We're just not throwing dollars out there, but we use labor market information to help us determine what types of jobs and what types of skills are needed. We also look at, again, our local areas to see what's going on in those areas. The One-Stop Career Center really has the concept, or should have the concept, and was intended by law to be a place where you could go and have not just your workforce needs met, but the people there should be able to refer you to other types of services. If you have issues with transportation, if you have issues with child care, if you have healthcare issues, you should be able to get some information there. They consider that or call it a one-stop approach. There should be no wrong door. You should be able to go into the Department of Labor locations to a one-stop career center and get not just employment and training help, but